Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a tour around the North Yorkshire Moors here in the UK. Now this is a national park and it's actually where I live, so a bit of a tour of some of the areas I've actually visited very recently. Also, this video is sponsored by Babbel. More about them further into the video. Now, throughout this video, we get the opportunity to see some of the real-world locations that I've taken footage of, as we can see right here, and then about to see them in the sim as well. So here's the same location in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This area then is known as Roseberry Topping. It sounds like some sort of dessert, doesn't it? But it's actually a very popular destination, and one with some significant history. Geologically, it's got a very distinctive look, kind of a crater-like summit, and this occurred in 1912 when the peak collapsed. Locally, you can see it from many miles around. Even from here, you can still see it. It's just about to disappear on the right of the screen there, behind the closer hills. Now, whilst the peak itself collapsed relatively recently, around about 100 years ago, the hill itself has far older history. Roseberry Topping is an old Nordic name, and the hill was actually dedicated to Odin. Now, here, we're to the south of Roseberry Topping, and we're picking up a trail called Cleveland Way. This is a rather long hiking route that extends all throughout the North Yorkshire Moors. The route itself is around 109 miles long. It's an extensive route then, a very popular destination for walkers and hikers, a very beautiful pathway then with many different parts to it, many of which I walk along myself quite frequently. And talking of that, a very quick word here about the sponsors of this video. I love walking and I love hiking. In fact, I recently moved to be near these beautiful locations. However, that said, I won't always want to be walking in the United Kingdom. After all, Europe is full of some stunning locations, specifically Switzerland, Austria and Germany. Travelling though generally requires some preparation, and what better way to be prepared than to learn a new language? Babbel then is a great way to achieve this. The mobile app has meant I can do it in a number of locations, including at home as well as when out walking. It teaches real-world useful conversation via short 10-minute lessons, which have been designed by real language teachers.
Die Hausnummer. Der Nachname Robinson.
Der Nachname Robinson. Overall then, this has been a very convenient way for me to start picking up a new language that might one day be useful on my travels. For all the information you need to know, do check out the link in the video description, where you can also find 65% off Babbel. Now, the Cleveland Way Trail runs right past Roseberry Topping, which we flew over a moment ago, and then continues onwards. It runs along the ridges here, which form the northern borders of this national park. Now, whilst it might not be entirely apparent from the footage here, these ridges are around about 1,300 feet above sea level. Meanwhile, the flatter land that we can see off into the distance is around about 100 feet above sea level. That means when you're walking along the Cleveland Way Trail here, you get a very commanding view of the entire region. In fact, if you're lucky enough to have the right weather and the right visibility, from certain points on these ridges here, you can see all the way to the northern Pennines, which is around about 50 to 60 miles away. You can actually get a slight feel for that view right here with this footage. Again, you can see the pathway here, Cleveland Way, and at this point it's just about to reach a very distinctive area known as the Rainstones. Now, these stones unfortunately are not modelled in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, but nevertheless, as we fly over them in just a moment, you'll still be able to see them a little bit as they're picked up by the satellite imagery. And there we go, right in the middle of the screen. So these are sandstone crags, the largest group in the North Yorkshire Moors, and they're a popular area for rock climbers. In fact, the last time I was around here, there was a group of people climbing them with all their climbing equipment. Okay, we've just flown over the Rainstones, and we're still in the section of the moors known as the Cold Moors. If we were to fly on far enough, we'd soon come to the section known as the Ura Moors. There you would find two very small towns, Egton as well as Gleasdale. Further though, there's also a very interesting historical feature there. These are known as the Three Howes. They're ancient graves, extending all the way back to the Bronze Age, some 3,000 years ago. Obviously far too small to make out on Microsoft Flight Simulator, but a very interesting location and feature nonetheless. So, I keep mentioning the North Yorkshire Moors, but what exactly are they? Well, they are a national park here in the UK that were established in 1952. The region comprises of around about 556 square miles. This encompasses many different types of landscape, including what we've seen here, as well as around about 26 miles of coastline. In fact, we'll have a look at two of the famous coastal towns in just a moment. And if you're anything like me and love walking, then this is a great location. There's around about 1,400 miles of rights of access ways and plenty of other locations as well that are not even included within that. Plenty of tracks, forest trails and other hiking paths. Anyway, if we keep flying east for a few miles, we eventually come to the east coast. This right here is Robin Hood's Bay. It's an absolutely beautiful town, as you can see right here. Unfortunately, a Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't really do it justice, but it does make a really good attempt. There's some great effort here of trying to capture the town's layout, as well as the narrow pathways, narrow roads, and the fact it's really ingrained into the landscape. Now the towns here have a few claims to fame. Further along we've got Whitby. Many of you will probably have heard of that town before, we'll get to that in just a moment, and beyond that is the town of Staithes. Now Staithes is well known for being the home of Captain James Cook, a famous British explorer. He probably doesn't need much in the way of introduction to many of you, famed for sailing on the HMS Endeavour and mapping and charting New Zealand as well as the eastern coast of Australia. He's also very well known, of course, for his journeys into the Antarctic. Now here on the east coast of the North Yorkshire Moors, we once again pick up that hiking trail, Cleveland Way. You can see it running right along the cliff edge here. Now these cliffs are truly beautiful, a very, very stunning location. You can get a glimpse of that right here, some very impressive cliffs actually. Further along the coast there's some much taller cliffs known as Bobby Cliffs, and these are the highest cliffs on the east of England, on the east coast. Now as we fly north once again, following the coastway along, we come from Robin Hood's Bay up towards the town of Whitby. Whitby, very well known of course for being the home of Dracula. Whitby is a relatively small town, all things considered. You can see it just coming up here to the top of the screen. It's a beautiful town and also a popular tourist destination. Now, in his novel, Bram Stoker chose Whitby Abbey to be Dracula's castle, and we can see that coming up right here on the cliff edge. Now, the big building, the Church of St Mary's, is still fully intact. We can see that right at the very edge of the cliff, but further back is an outline. We can only see that in Microsoft Flight Simulator. In reality, this is a full-on ruins. The simulator has unfortunately kind of missed that, as it's captured only the outline via satellite imagery. At any rate, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I'm actually thinking about making more of this style in the future, so yeah, do let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.